think, Sycamore Township is developed, we're 100% developed. Our changes now are talking about the fringe areas, the areas that separate the commercial from the residential. What areas do we wanna go see commercial in the long run? And I think a lot of what we need to focus on is the area down south on Reading Road and northern Sycamore Township. Kenwood is its own beast, and it's gonna continue to go that way. And I think we need to tighten up the borders of Kenwood, but you really gotta look at the north, what's gonna happen up there. You really gotta look at Reading Road. We've got the city of Cincinnati, we've got the Port Authority, we've got the city of Reading involved. So I think those are some of our focus areas that we really need to drill down into. I mean, Kenwood is what it is. We're gonna be able to feather that out from here and push forward.
As far as advisory groups, did we not have different groups for the different areas? In other words, no, we did not.
Well,
I don't believe we did. I thought we did.
No, what we did was we picked up, people that were part of the process were in different parts of the township.
Yeah.
Obviously, we couldn't pick up anybody from southern Sycamore because nobody wanted to participate, or the Chaucer Drive. We had folks from Kenwood, we had folks from up in the north, we had folks from Hyde Meyer Sturgis. We had a varied group, and then we had a zoning commission and a BZA member as well as part of that process. So.
Carrie, did you?
I wanted to say one other
Do you
thing.
mind if I address some of the comments?
I wanted to say one thing
I'll
about
defer to-
transparency.
to her first.
Would anybody not on the bus please stand up? Okay, we're ready to go.
What?
Okay.
If you ask a bus, who's not on the bus? Anybody that's not on the bus, say, stand up and tell me, okay, we're ready to go. That's what you're doing. You have loaded this up, you've packed yourselves on the back, that you've invited everybody. You said, anybody not interested, stand up. You have not reached out in an effective way. And you're a fast talker, and you've covered all the bases, but the facts are, you don't have the people that represent Sycamore Township at these meetings, and you haven't gone out and found them. And you have that responsibility, and you have the money to do it. So, when you
Okay,
say,
Carrie, let me-
who's not on the bus, stand up, that's what you get.
I'm gonna make a recommendation that we form an ad hoc committee consisting of 7 total members. 1 member from Board of Zoning Appeals, 1 member from Planning and Zoning, 3 residents, and 2 business stakeholders in the community to become a land use plan review board and participate in the land use plan adoption process. I would recommend that any applicant who chooses to be on that committee would submit their application to staff. Staff would review it and make recommendations to the board.
Can you add to that?
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'm making
Can I
that.
just-
I'll second the motion for discussion purposes. Go ahead.
Okay, can we add to that, to have that group meet on a separate night rather than after a regular
Sure.
zoning meeting?
Yeah,
I think that's probably more efficient anyway.
So here's kind of what I envision is happening. Harry, and I'll work with him, we'll put together kind of a syllabus about how this group's gonna go forward. And I would imagine some of our meetings will be during the day. I think this group needs to take the raw data that Jacobs already has, come up with something that's gonna be some type of draft, and then this group's gonna champion this type of process throughout. So I would imagine they're gonna be during the day, they're gonna be at night, it's gonna be varied, but it won't be, until it's the formal final adoption processes, that will be at the meetings.
And Jack, that's consistent with what we did on the last one. We had, I believe we had
I
7
know,
people.
You're going back to a process that's been proven to be successful.
Right, absolutely.
To that model. What about the pause, though?
I'm not interested in,
I would really appreciate
interested
taking
in,
a pause.
I'm not interested in, I think we should continue to move the zoning code
Well,
forward.
I think-
We're not making any zoning code we're not making any zoning changes to any properties.
I think we can-
Zoning code changes.
I think Harry and I
That's
can
critical.
I understand where Jack's coming from. I think Harry and I can weed out those things that are not necessary for this cleanup stage, and those can get pushed to later. I understand exactly where it's coming from. That's something we can certainly do, and then we'll bring the code to you, and you guys decide how you wanna handle it.
Can we do one more? Jacobs said in the contract that they would meet with residents. Can you at least invite them into 1 or 2 of the community?
Yeah, so what'll happen
Part of
is,
the process.
Paul will be here as part of the process. But I'm really gonna rely on this group and Harry to be the facilitators. This group needs to take ownership of the plan, not just sit there and be some board that says, they need to engage in the community as well. And if they want, if we wanna try to get more people on the bus, as Ms. Cooper says, then I think this is a process of doing it. And if people don't show up for the bus, then we can't help that.
Jack, as you know, our experience in the past, those people didn't show up to these meetings. We have
It's
open, we have
hard-
open meetings, we had a lot of them
It's
actually.
hard to
It is.
get people involved.
I'm
But
not
as
arguing
a
with it.
public group, as trustees with your responsibility to the community and how dynamic we're gonna be in the next several years, you have to really try hard to get people to come out.
I agree.
And maybe go into their living room and talk to them.
There's just a lot of technical changes that really need to get done, Jack, and I think you're saying you're not arguing with that.
No,
And I
I would
think-
like the motion maybe to include a reference to technical changes or cleanup rather than a, you know.
I'm not sure what that means, but I know there's a lot of things in there that I want to change.
First of all, my motion was only for a land use plan committee, it had nothing to do with the zoning code. So I'd like to continue, we have a motion and a second, I'd like to
Harry,
continue.
you wanted to say something before that?
I do, if you don't mind, because a lot of this obviously has to do with my department and how we interact and how we do things and how we are going to now take the new land use plan or zoning resolution and interpret what it says and then enforce that, right? So the biggest thing, and I wanna thank Jack because he was the author of this document. He got paid for that. He got paid a lot of money, whether it was copying what Hampton County said and bringing it over, or it was taking our input and modifying it, but he is the author. And I can tell you, part of the reason why we're redoing it is because it is a mess. It needs to be redone. There's not just some grammatical errors in it. There's errors in there that set us up for liability. And I know I've talked about this with Mr. Miller. There's concerns there by not only his company, but also the township and the liability that we face because of what was done previous. And it is important that we do continue with this action and get these things changed that are very important for the township and for its residents and its business community, that we address them right now. The other thing, that, and I'm sorry, I'm expecting a call from the prosecutor, so I apologize for that. As far as the timelines, we did start out on a pretty aggressive timeline. It was throw it in, send it out, accept it, go on to the next phase. Well, we're not doing that. We have listened to the residents, and that's part of the reason for the delay. I've communicated back and forth with Paul Jacob and said, look, we need more input on this. I've got some questions about that, and we've communicated back and forth, and that does lengthen the process. This document is going to be a darn good document when we're done, and I don't feel comfortable at just saying, well, let's just throw it through, let's rush everything, because we're not. We're breaking down the chapters, we're giving the residents and anybody else for that matter time to address it. And that's the other thing with this review, the land use plan, we're not changing zoning. So the SPI overlay, the capital project that got approved, the Kugler Mill project that's coming in front of us now, that doesn't change. Zoning is what zoning is. We're not changing the zoning, we're just updating the current land use map. Once we get to other parts, then we'll be updating those, but those require a lot more input. Just a couple other things. So, and this is important. At this point, the remaining chapters have to do with administration and who administers and who hears what, and we're up to chapter 20-something. That's the administrative part of it. So trustees hear this, zoning commission hears that, staff makes recommendations, and that's the last part of this document before it actually goes in front of the board of trustees. So I'm accumulating all the recommendations, you guys will get all that, I'll have a simple little spreadsheet that breaks down everything. So the remaining chapters, those will be what's addressed the next thing. And this is really concerning for me because we do get a lot of input from very few residents. Quality of life. We have actually looked at that in our code. We've looked at the streetscape buffering. We've looked at boundary buffering. We actually increased the amount of trees and shrubs that are required on any development development that comes into the township. So if you're a retail and you want to go in this area and it's a category 3 and you're going next to another category 1, we've increased our tree count. We've increased our shrub count. So we're listening to the residents and we're trying to address those things. The red line version, again, like Greg said, our public comment that I've seen has been negative, but it's only been negative from a few residents. And I think Greg had a great point at, the reason we don't get a lot of people out is because they're happy with Sycamore Township. I don't think the very few angry people should dictate our whole community. I think it's important that we support the community in addition to the angry people that aren't happy with anything we do. This document and the review process has been as transparent as any township, city, municipality in 20 miles. That's all I got.
One thing you mentioned, the angry people, I want to just make a comment on that, and I've run into so many residents in Sycamore Township that will make comments. And the underlying thing of that is, the reason you don't see 100 people here on a Thursday night meeting is because they said, Jim, we elected you, we elected the trustees, we expect you to do the right thing. So the majority of people, my neighborhood, your neighborhood, if you live in Sycamore, that's what they think. They think everything is going well because we elected you. Then they're not gonna go in and dissect everything. So you have some residents here, and you have a man who's extremely well versed on the subject, and he's just giving you the input, and you don't need to defend yourself.
You got a motion and a
Have we
second.
had any further discussion on the motion in the second? Mr. Miller, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Weedman. Aye. Mr. Connor.
Aye.
Mr. LaBarbera.
I'll go along with the sign.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Zoning question,
Yes?
following up on a couple comments from staff. Greg, you said there was one voice speaking up with regard to zoning. What voice was that?
That's whatever voice we're hearing here today, it's all the same mantra, all pretty much the same comment, so I don't have varied opinions, I don't have somebody saying, well, I want this, it's one voice saying the same things.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Mr. Holbert, you mentioned credentials as a possible requirement. What are your credentials, please?
I have a degree in architecture, I have a degree in surveying, I have a degree in construction management, and I also have another degree in liberal arts and, trying to think of I also have another degree, I can't think of what it is right now. It's up on my wall, I'd be happy to show it to you.
And how many years of professional experience do you have working for the township?
For Sycamore Township here's what I call it on this side of the board. Because before, when I did architectural work and I did engineering design, I was on the other side of the board, so I was submitting applications for approvals, I was submitting for developments to be reviewed by the commission. So when I came in here as the zoning inspector, I was required to have at least an associate degree and so much experience, so.
And how long have you been in your current position, please?
Currently, I've been working for Sycamore Township for a little bit over 10 years. So July 30th or 28th or something, it'll be 11 years.
Okay, so you were here when the Jacobs contract was approved and commenced.
Correct.
And what was the first public comment that you received? What was the date of that?
I don't
You
know.
don't know?
I can go look at my emails.
Okay.
Now, I would only have a copy of what was written in an email type format. If somebody else gave me a comment in passing, or like, at that point I was doing inspections more so than what I've done in the last couple of years. Somebody might say, hey, I think you need to add this to the zoning resolution, or I don't think fences in the front yard is, you know what I'm saying? So there may be some other comments that I didn't write down at the time, but.
I was just trying to gauge when the public comment period commenced.
Oh, I'll have to go look at the record.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, at least as far as the zoning resolution is concerned.
Yeah, because I remember seeing, Kathy told me that, have you seen on the website, there's the proposed zoning changes? And that was, I want to say, less than a year ago.
Yeah, I think I sent you an email to explain where it was because you couldn't find it on the website. So I kind of gave you an itemized list of, go to the website, click where it says zoning resolution, double click on this, and then it'll pop up. And I'm assuming you found it okay?
So I think that was late 2017, maybe early 2018, it showed up in a visible spot on the website for the community, and then it was included in the newsletter. So that's why I was wondering, I'm assuming that's the initiation or commencement of public input, because people just didn't know that that was occurring up until that point.
Well, we put it in our newsletter, we've sent
In
out.
2018, I'm pretty sure.
Communication regarding it.
Okay,
So
I just wanted to
think
check
if you can't find
that
it,
timeline.
you're probably not looking for it. 'Cause
Well,
I
yeah,
think it's
people,
pretty easy.
why would people be looking if they
This is
didn't
a
know?
conversation you
Let's-
guys
yeah,
could
yeah,
have
yeah,
after the
let's-
meeting.
I have a quick question.
Thank you for clarifying.
What college, what university did you get?
Let's take that
that's-
offline.
this is
No,
not-
let's take that
Well, you
offline.
can
That's,
ask me after, this is, we got business to attend to here.
I've got 18 more agenda items we need to get through.
I just wanna mention one thing to Jack. Jack, you didn't get an email blast because you didn't sign up for the email blast. If you go on our website and sign up for it, you'll get them every time we send something out. We send, you know, your.
Mea culpa, mea culpa.
No,
On that.
I
But
think-
I've signed up, I get notices of the workshop, I get those minutes, I have, I wasn't aware that there was a blast, a specific blast that I
We
could
keep
sign up.
creating different categories.
Subcategories.
Well, sign me up for all of them. You know my email, so just sign me up.
Hey, do you want the other ones too?
One comment, the word transparency was used, and I think what Jack was just talking about, what you were just talking about email. Residents have to be proactive. You know, I've 50 years in education, it's like trying to teach civics. Why do we have to learn this stuff? And Carrie, when you say, well, people are happy, you don't know if they're happy or not, because they don't care. They don't care. So what I would like to see and suggest is, are there some ways that the trustees can reach out in what's gonna be 2019 to residents, so that they start maybe creating some interest, and even knowing the good, bad, and the ugly, what goes on here? Because it's like, how do you get people, how do you get in touch with people, let them know what's going on, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if there is, those things. So is it possible to have weekly podcasts? There's your update. I mean, why? Because that's, or put more on Twitter, or, I don't know how you get people to sign up for the email. That's a problem. But that would be something that would alleviate some of all this disruption that goes on, that prevents business from going on. Transparency, how can we improve it? Goal, resolution for 2019, just a suggestion. Be happy to talk to you, Greg, about some ideas. It's like trying to get people to make a contribution when they don't open mail anymore. You used to do mail solicitations, and they would open them and they would contribute. Doesn't happen. You're wasting your money.
I think we set
How do
off
you
in
get email
certain
addresses or anything else? How do you communicate with our residents?
Good suggestions, Al. We'll talk later.
Thanks for your comments. Let's move on to item number 2, resolution nuisance property. Harry?
Okay, well, I won't be able to give this to you because I wrote all over it, not thinking, but I'll be happy to print one out, and, in once I'm done here.
We'll get you a pen and paper.
Harry, what's underneath all your papers there? Do you have paper there that you're gonna written on?
Well, no, yeah, this one was right on top. But I do have a resolution providing for and authorizing removal of trash and debris, declaring a nuisance for the property located at 11437 Snyder Road, Sycamore Township, Ohio, 45249, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency.
We have a long agenda. Why don't you go print out a clean
I will.
one, because what you're reading includes all of your notes that you have on there. In other words, they're now included in that resolution.
Okay,
Oh,
so I'll go print out right now.
okay, so we,
We can move, just,
Let's
Close
move
out our-
on to the
keep
next,
going.
he's in charge of the next two.
Doug's got it.
Doug's got it.
okay, all right, we'll, table item 2.
I have the rest of
We'll go to item 3.
I have a resolution approving a major adjustment to the VGA Properties LLC planned unit development and dispensing with the second motion.
Okay, would you give the address on that, excuse me, would you get a little more date on that, and you just said that, what's the address?
8800 Montgomery Road.
Okay.
And we also always put the parcel number in because a lot of times if it's vacant land, there is no address or the county is not assigned an address, so I always use the parcel
Okay,
number.
I just want,
I'll second the motion, on the resolution. Any further discussion on it?
What's the adjustment?
This was result of the public hearing from the December meeting. This is the, residential property that's going to be turned into a, office.
across the street from Mercedes.
We have a motion and second.
We have a
It's a
motion,
motion.
second.
Mr. Connor.
Aye.
Mr. LaBarbera.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman. And a resolution approving a major adjustment to the SMC Kenwood LLC planned unit development dispensing with the second reading.
Motion.
Second.
So
And
this
that's
is-
another one, Jim, where there is not an address on the property. It's the corner of southwest corner of Galbraith and Frolic, and we have included the parcel ID number.
Before you call the roll on this
Yeah,
one, I think
we
the
have-
applicant would like to address one of the conditions that was placed on the
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. So over the last few meetings, I'm Harmon Kaur, I'm with Cincinnati Home Dialysis. Over the last 2 meetings, we have worked with the residents, with the trustees, with the township, and we have made every change we were requested. I'm here to request, one of the conditions for the approval was brick and stone use only. And this was the original design we have submitted. I just want to make sure it's visible to everyone. And the reason we chose this design was we have a super modern Jewish building on one side, and then the phase 1 of the project, which, we are a completely different owner, completely different company, but they had a brick and stone building. And this was kind of a transitional building in between. So if you're standing on Galbraith Road and you look at 3 developments, it's kind of transitional. You have Jewish, you have this design, and you have a brick and stone. So that was the purpose we proposed this. That